with the daughter of the other convicted serial killer for support and is considering authoring a book sharing the perspective of a serial offender's child. Well, that ought to be interesting. Not. Yeah, I didn't really know my dad very well. Apparently he killed all these women. I had no idea. Neither did my mom. Chapter 1. Chapter 2, I'm going to move on and always have the stigma of my dad being a serial killer. The end, right? I mean, come on, really? Anyway, the couple's son, Christopher Sheridan, who has special needs, has been unemployed since his arrest and resides with his mother and sister. Now, obviously, these households had encountered a substantial financial challenge stemming from job losses and prior debts, and the family participated in the Peacock documentary series, which provided compensation but drew criticism from some victims' relatives. And attorney Robert Macedonio has stated that the relatives are focused on regaining privacy and piecing their lives together with discussions of potential relocation, possibly to Iceland, where Elrup has family ties to South Carolina, considering the constraints by practical factors. So if you don't recall, Mr. Rex Heuermann was sentenced to life without parole after pleading guilty to the murders of 7 women whose remains were discovered near the Gilgo Beach and admitted responsibility for an 8th. The family did not attend the sentencing proceedings, and Elrup and Victoria have each indicated interest in writing books. Yeah, always about the money, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, obviously, transition there for the family, but hey, what can you do? I feel sorry for them. I mean, how do they know? Oftentimes the biggest victims are the family. I agree for that, but these people apparently had no idea that their dad was killing prostitutes in the basement. Really? Never had a hint? Never an inkling? Hey, what'd you do this weekend? Why don't you want to come on vacation with us? Oh, I don't know. I think I'll just go get some prostitutes and strangle them and clean them up down in the basement. Weird. Nobody ever noticed after 27 years of marriage? Really? Not even a little inkling? Just a little bit? Next on the docket, the ex-Colorado DNA analyst Missy Woods pleads guilty to evidence tampering. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you may think, oh, it's just a lab tech that made a couple of mistakes. No. All right. I have personally dealt with Yvonne Missy Woods over the years, and she was the Colorado Bureau of Investigation's golden child. How dare you question the wonderful Missy Woods? Okay. And apparently she was taking a few shortcuts that, going to screw up a few cases, and it's going to cost the state a ton of money because of her actions. And she won't be sentenced for some time, but she probably needs to go to prison. So let's get to it. Golden, Colorado. That's up in Jefferson County here in Colorado. A former DNA analyst with the Colorado Bureau of Investigations pled guilty on Tuesday to 4 felony charges for manipulating forensic evidence in numerous criminal investigations spanning nearly 3 decades, resolving a scandal that has prompted the review of more than 1,000 cases that she worked on. So Yvonne Missy Woods entered guilty pleas in Jefferson County District Court to 1 count each of cybercrime, perjury, attempting to influence a public servant, and forgery. Now, under the agreement with the prosecution, more than 100 additional counts were dismissed. The resolution stipulates a prison term of between 8 to 16 years, guaranteeing incarceration and precluding probation eligibility. Sentencing is scheduled for September 8th of 2026 before Judge Andrew Poland. Now, Woods worked as a DNA analyst at the agency's laboratory in Lakewood and later Arvada from 1994 until her retirement in 2023. Now, prosecutors allege that she intentionally altered or omitted results, including excluding DNA samples from testing conducted repeated analysis until, well, basically she got the preferred outcome that she wanted, deleting specific findings in more than 30 sexual assaults investigations and submitting reports that incorrectly indicated the absence of male DNA when evidence suggested otherwise or required additional examination. She was cooking the books, ladies and gentlemen, to get the result that she wanted. So don't give me this, oh, never question science stuff, okay? Anyway, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation initiated the review of cases linked to her work, identifying irregularities in 107 matters within the 1st Judicial District alone. That's Jefferson County, okay? 100 there. We have 28 judicial districts, I think, 26. One notable example involves a 1994 murder conviction of Michael Clark in Boulder County, who served 12 years in prison before his release in April of this past year, after questions arose regarding the handling of DNA evidence in the case. Advocacy groups, including the Corey Wise Innocence Project, continued to examine affected proceedings, noting potential harm to both defendants who may have been deprived of exculpatory information and victims whose cases may have been compromised or delayed. Now, the district attorney up there in Jefferson County, Alexis King, described the plea as Woods accepting responsibility for misconduct that extended over many years, emphasizing that the stipulated prison sentence upholds expectations of integrity in the justice system. And the Boulder County District Attorney, Michael Doherty, highlighted the broader effects, including the need to revisit cases and the resulting distress for the victims' families. The agency's director, Armando Saldate, characterized the outcome as a key moment of accountability amid ongoing laboratory reforms. Now, Woods had initially entered a not guilty plea after charges were filed back in January of 2025. The case led to an independent investigation by authorities from South Dakota and contributed to the passage of a state legislation aimed at improving the reporting of forensic misconduct. Now, this is huge because it goes directly to the reliability of forensic sciences, not only within Colorado justice system, but throughout the country. If you have the scientists, I'm not an interested party in this particular case. I'm just a scientist. That's what they say. I'm just a scientist. I have no dog in this fight. Just reporting the results. Poppycock. Okay? Poppycock. These lab personnel, they consider themselves part of the prosecution team, ladies and gentlemen. There's nothing independent about it. All right. And I've told you this story before. We had a trial. It was a homicide case, cold case, DNA. We went through it. We said, hey, we got issues with the DNA. Everybody looked at us like we had a third eye on our forehead. The judge wouldn't let us go into anything. Oh, poo-poo it. How dare you question the lab of such great integrity, right? Years later, we get a letter saying, hey, an independent lab did an audit. And guess what? All that stuff that you guys raised as issues, you were right. Okay. But in the meantime, everybody dismisses it because they sit around saying, how can you question the prosecution? Next on the docket. An accused Georgia teacher broke house arrest 85 times. So down to Douglasville, Georgia, where a former high school biology teacher facing multiple charges of sexually abusing teenagers has allegedly violated the terms of her house arrest more than 85 times in less than a month, according to filings to revoke her bond. Now, Maris Nichols, who's only 25, who taught at the Alexander High School in Douglasville, was arrested in May of 2026 on accusations of improper sexual contact with a student and later faced additional charges involving 5 more teenagers. The counts include 8 instances of improper sexual activity by a school employee or agent, 4 counts of grooming a minor for a sexual offense, 2 counts of child molestation, and tampering with evidence. Now, court records also indicate that she has not yet entered a plea to the allegations. Now, following her release, she posted a $74,000 bond. Nicholas was placed under strict electronic monitoring with specific restrictions, including prohibitions on contact with the alleged victim or any minors except her 6-year-old daughter, bans any internet or social media access, and requirements for the psychosexual evaluation. Anyway, she was permitted to leave the residence only for religious services, attorney meetings, and medical appointments, or obviously to attend court. Then prosecutors alleged that during the 27-day monitoring period, Nichols committed 38 curfew violations and 47 additional breaches of her bond condition. These include unauthorized outings to retail stores and fast food restaurants in the location where minors were present. Assistant District Attorney Ra Williams filed a motion requesting revocation of her bond, arguing that Nichols poses a significant threat to the community and would potentially intimidate witnesses or reoffend. The judge has scheduled a hearing for next Monday at 9:30, where her legal team, is going to file a response and try to explain why she can't follow the rules, the court's orders, because, it is a court order. It's an order. It's not a, would you please, would you kind of do this? No, you shall comply or go to jail. Going back to there's an easy way or there's a hard way, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know why most criminal defendants always pick the hard way. It's just the way it is. Next, a kidnapped teen found inside a dryer after a 911 call is made. Down to Key Largo, Florida, a teenager who reported being held against her will was discovered inside a clothes dryer at a residence in the Florida Keys after dialing 911, prompting the arrest of a 53-year-old man on multiple charges. Now, the juvenile, who is not from Florida, contacted emergency services on Saturday morning to report that Christopher Michael Veit, V-E-I-T, was restraining her and preventing her from leaving. Now, the sheriff down there is investigating it, and deputies responded to the call where the teen was concealed inside the dryer, Veit's home on Miramar Drive. Anyway, investigators allege that Veit had taken the teenager's phone when she attempted to depart, forced her into the dryer, and engaged in unlawful sexual activity with the minor. The teen was transported to a local hospital for evaluation and then ultimately released to her family. Now, Veit was arrested over the weekend and now faces multiple charges of unlawful sexual activity with a minor, kidnapping or false imprisonment, and interference with child custody. Now, during the search of the residence, police discovered sheets of counterfeit currency, and they notified the Secret Service to investigate that. Court records available, but the sheriff also has not released any additional details. Can't make this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. Be careful of your kids out there. Next, a Texas father, charged with shooting his daughter on Father's Day. So a 61-year-old man remains in custody on murder charges after police say he fatally shot his 25-year-old daughter while attempting to intervene into a physical altercation between her and her mother on Father's Day. So the Parker County Sheriff's Office is handling this case, and the incident occurred at a residence down in Azle, Texas. Anyway, Charles Todd Brooks retrieved a handgun, loaded it, and chambered a round in an effort to separate the women. The weapon discharged during the confrontation, striking Rebecca Bailey Brooks in the chest. Obviously, the police are called, report of a gunshot victim, and located the injured woman at the scene. Despite life-saving measures by first responders, she was pronounced dead. Now, the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's Office conducted an autopsy confirming her identity. Anyway, Brooks told investigators the shooting was accidental as he tried to de-escalate the dispute. He's been charged with murder and is currently being held on a $2 million bond. The Texas Rangers are assisting in the investigation, and the sheriff down there expressed the office's condolence, stating that their thoughts and prayers are with the family and the loved ones of the victim. I don't know, should have called the police first before shooting a gun. What can you do? Next, the United States Supreme Court reinstates convictions in the Eaton Pats matter case. That's right. The United States Supreme Court has reinstated the murder conviction of Pedro Hernandez in the 1979 disappearance and killing of 6-year-old Eaton Pats, resolving a procedural dispute that has vacated the verdict and prompted preparations for a third trial. In an unsigned 6-3 decision issued on June 22nd, 2026, the justices upheld the 2017 conviction obtained during Hernandez's retrial. The ruling overturns a lower court's decision that had set aside the conviction due to the trial judge's response to a juror's question concerning the treatment of multiple confessions and Miranda rights warnings. So, as you may recall, a lot of people don't recall, I don't remember this case, but it goes way back. So, Eaton Pats vanished on May 25th, 1979 in New York City's Soho neighborhood after walking alone to school to meet a school bus for the first time. Boy's body has never been recovered. Now, Hernandez, a former convenience store employee near the bus stop, who is now 64, confessed to the crime back in 2012 following a tip to police. His defense argued that the confession was false and unreliable due to mental health issues, and Hernandez's first trial in 2015 ended in a mistrial. But he was convicted in the second trial and sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. The district attorney, Alvin Bragg, welcomed the ruling, stating that the Supreme Court agreed with the findings of multiple lower courts and upheld the trial conviction from this horrific murder that, basically changed a generation of New Yorkers. He emphasized that his office is steadfast in pursuit of justice for the Pats family. So Hernandez remains imprisoned now that the conviction is restored, and the decision prevents the need for a third trial and provides a measure of finality in one of New York City's most notorious cold cases. Next on the docket, this day in legal history, June 26, 1957, the United States Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that obscene abortion materials are not protected by the First Amendment. In the landmark decision, the court established a test for obscenity, determining that material appealing to prurient interest and lacking redeeming social value could be regulated. This case is a foundational precedent for balancing free speech and explicit conduct. How about this date, 2022? The United States Supreme Court issued a decision in Dobbs v. Jackson, a women's health organization, overturning the 1973 Roe v. Wade precedent that had recognized a constitutional right to an abortion in a 6-3 ruling. The court held that the Constitution does not confer such authority over abortion to the states. The decision represented a major shift in reproductive rights jurisprudence and sparked widespread debate on federal versus state powers. Now, whether you like the decision or not, Roe v. Wade, they made it up. Okay. I remember learning that in law school, constitutional law. The professor was like, they made it up. It's a complete example of judicial activism, right? Somehow I don't think the founding fathers were sitting there saying, hey, you know what we need to throw in there? Abortion rights. We'll just won't mention it. It'll be in the penumbra of the Fourth Amendment, is what Roe v. Wade said. So I'm not getting political. I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just saying from a legal perspective, Roe v. Wade was one of the worst decided cases ever. And not for the decision that was ever made, whether you agree or disagree. It was completely made up by the Supreme Court, completely going against every legal jurisprudent principle that we have, that the courts are supposed to interpret the law and not make it up. And obviously, like the 10th Amendment says, anything not specifically mentioned in the Constitution gets sent to the states. So the states get to do it. And you get to have the states decide based upon their values in that particular state. And most states have granted it. Even I think Kansas was the most recent case where it was a very conservative state, but they still said we want to be able to provide abortions to people. So who knows, ladies and gentlemen? Next, our quote of the day. Crime is contagious. If the government becomes a lawbreaker, well, it breeds contempt for the law. It invites every man to become a law unto himself. Yes, Missy Woods. And then finally, our dumb criminal of the day. In a performance that could only unfold in the Sunshine State, 28-year-old Riley Ferrer turned a simple fender bender into an apocalyptic spectacle worthy of straight-to-video blockbuster. On June 19th in Hernando County, Ferrer allegedly slammed his pickup into a sedan carrying an unsuspecting couple, injuring them badly enough to summons a medical helicopter. At first, responders cleared a landing zone on the closed highway. Ferrer reportedly emerged from his overturned vehicle like a man on a mission. Well, somewhere ominous. Anyway, rather than cooperating, he allegedly made a beeline for the chopper in the ambitious bid to steal it, all while rambling about spotting the Antichrist and confessing that the very revelation prompted the initial crash. Officers, understandably unimpressed by the end of times excuses, took him into custody on the spot. Now, Ferrer now faces 3 counts of resisting arrest and far more serious charges of burglary of an occupied conveyance. That's the helicopter. He's got a $3,000 bond on the lesser offense with no bond on the big one. Anyway, his next court date, July 14th, where he'll have the opportunity to explain the celestial traffic maneuvers to a judge who has presumably heard it all before. What can you do? Florida man strikes again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next time. And remember, the Constitution matters.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back into an episode of the Lawyer You Know podcast. And I'm really excited for this podcast because somebody said throughout the entire trial that Emily Baker doesn't see it like this. Emily Baker said this. Emily Baker said that. How do you guys see this case so differently? So we figured we'd have to have Emily on and talk about it. And for those of you that don't know Emily, she was a longtime prosecutor in LA, and she is the stream queen now. Gavel to gavel, these big cases. Everybody goes there, watches the entire case through, hears her commentary throughout, basically like a color commentator for people that like sports, right? She brings the energy, she brings the fun, she's funny.
ago that wiped that from the human memory banks almost completely, not entirely completely because there were survivors.
Are we alone in the universe? The question is back in the spotlight as government officials speak out in a new documentary.
Let me be clear. UAP are real. Advanced technologies not made by our government or any other government are monitoring sensitive military installations around the globe. Furthermore, the U.S. is in possession of UAP technologies, as are some of our adversaries.
People in New Jersey are concerned and demanding information after a wave of mysterious drone sightings. But the government has yet to give any concrete answers.
Hurry, all freaks, and grab a seat. You don't know what you don't know. It's What the Freak Friday.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Drunk Turkey Show. I'm Daniel, and tonight we're getting back into the UFO topic as the government released a new batch of videos, audio, documents, the whole 9 yards, and we're going to be breaking down all of it. Not tonight, though, but we will eventually be breaking down all of it, including the documents and everything else that's included in it. We are going to tonight. What we are going to do, is we are going to go through some of the videos that I found to be the most compelling, the most controversial, the most that maybe perhaps if you were to think or lean towards, all right, is there something that we're seeing that defies the laws of physics, maybe perhaps technology and what we can do today, and so much more. So we're not going to go through every video. There was quite a bit dropped. I've already gone through all of them, I believe, and I picked out, oh gosh, I still picked out quite a few. So we're going to be looking at quite a few documents. I hear Rogan yelling in the background. If that's what you hear, she's having a good time watching the Spurs game. Well, anywho, but before we I accidentally kicked myself out. Sorry about that, guys. But before we get into the conversation, I wanted to kind of inform you guys of a little thing that I got going on with Steelers fan, my spouse. We have a YouTube channel called Married to the Hobby. You can search it by going to Married, the number 2, the Hobby. We have 89 subscribers, guys. I'd really appreciate it if you could help us out in getting that going. We're going to do a giveaway when we get to the 500 subscriber mark. If you're into Pokemon stuff, we're going to be giving away one of the a booster bundle for the newest set. And so you got to be a subscriber. We'll be doing some videos, etc. on that. If you're into Pokemon, I'd appreciate if you go and check it out. We're doing a long form video tomorrow, probably airing sometime, maybe tomorrow evening, maybe on Sunday. We went out and got quite a bit of the newest set, and we're going to be opening it and kind of discussing where the hit's coming from, what store has better products. So go check it out. I'd really, really appreciate it, guys, if you would subscribe. And hey, you could be part of the giveaway. So without further ado, let's get into today's topic, UFOs. I don't know if you guys noticed. Let me put this back. Change the background here. I'm in a spaceship, but it's a little too dark. I think I like the earlier one I had. Let me adjust my ship. I'm gonna turn the lights on really quick. There we go. Much better. You guys can see me. I feel like I can see you guys better. All righty. Without further ado, let's break this down. So this is the war.gov/UFO website. And I've already kind of put these in order. I put for the new release because there's 2 releases. We went through the first one. I'm actually going to make myself smaller on the screen here, make this large and in charge. And we're going to go through quite a few of them. And we're going to go in order, and there's some interesting stuff. And we're going to check it out. We're going to look at the videos. I'm going to give you guys, I guess, what it is, the context behind it. Because some of these videos are out, but not necessarily the context. So the first one we're going to look at is this Syrian UAP. It's called instant acceleration. So I'm just going to read this for the first, just the first time. And then after that, we won't need to read this anymore. But this goes on to say on March 6, 2026, 8 members of the U.S. House of Representatives requested access to 51 potential UAP related records allegedly held by the Department of War and Intelligence Community. All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, ARROW, identified a collection of responsive materials held on a classified network. Many of these materials lack substantiated chain of custody. That's a big one. And some of these are going to be some of the things that we have seen here recently, whether it be released by Jeremy Corbell or other, high profile ufologists, whether it be also like Tom DeLonge and To the Stars Academy. I don't actually know if they've released any UFO, but they talked about certain things, and they also had whistleblowers amongst their employment, I guess. Lou Elizondo being one, General Will McCaslin, who is one of the guys who's disappeared, one of the 12 or 13 now members of special projects who have gone missing or disappeared or killed in the last couple of years. So chain of custody issues, maybe perhaps is what it's talking about, because some of these clips have been seen elsewhere. ARROW assesses that this video, whose uploader defined the title is Syrian UAP Instant Acceleration, is likely derived from an infrared sensor aboard a U.S. military platform operating with the United States Central Command Area of Responsibility in 2021. A user uploaded this video to the classified network in June of 2024. This video description is the media is digitally altered prior to its upload to classified network and is presented as received. So that's huge. So it's been altered, and it was altered before it was put up there, which is interesting. This is one of the more interesting ones. Now we have to question how real it is or the validity. But what the altercation, I think, is the maybe perhaps the zoomed in aspect, and I think also the maybe a stabilizing aspect might be that. So let's watch the video. I think the most thing that's interesting is right here. It says the sensor stops tracking the area of contrast, causing it to rapidly exit to the right side of the frame. And that